Hello and welcome to today's video. With the just concluded American presidential election, won by Donald Trump, I will take a brief look into Trump's policy proposals on the campaign trail. This gives us an idea of how Trump will govern when he takes office, although he's notoriously unpredictable. Trump's political platform presents a fascinating study in contrasts, weaving together traditional conservative positions with unprecedented approaches to executive power. At its core, his agenda represents a significant departure from conventional governance while maintaining certain familiar conservative touchstones. Let's examine his policies. Abortion. Though Trump took credit for the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, he downplayed federal abortion legislation as a second-term priority, stating he would veto a national ban if passed by Congress. For the first time in decades, the GOP platform, under his influence, omitted calls for a national ban, though it still promotes 14th Amendment protections for fetuses. This clause offers a potential pathway for conservatives to pursue a national abortion ban through federal courts. Affordable Care Act and healthcare. Trump remains committed to repealing the Affordable Care Act, ACA, though he has yet to offer an alternative. In his debate with Kamala Harris, he said he had concepts of a plan. He has also suggested a potential partnership with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on health policy, noting Kennedy's critical views on vaccines and agriculture practices. He said he would put Kennedy in charge of making America healthy again. Climate and energy. Labeling climate change a hoax. Trump opposes Biden's clean energy initiatives. His energy policy focuses on fossil fuel production, vowing to end EV incentives and fuel efficiency standards. He proposes an energy policy tied to fossil fuels, roads, bridges and combustion engine vehicles. Drill Baby Drill was regularly heard at Trump rallies. He pledges to roll back Biden's fuel efficiency standards. Diversity, equity and inclusion. LGBTQ and civil rights. Trump opposes diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, programs within federal institutions. His transgender policies would reverse the Biden administration's Title X protections and mandate a binary gender recognition system. He seeks to eliminate government DEI programs using federal funding as leverage. Trump promises generally to end boys in girls sports, a practice he insists is widespread. Education. A Trump administration would target the Department of Education for potential elimination. In K-12 education, Trump would use federal funding to pressure schools to abolish tenure, shift to merit-based teacher pay, and eliminate diversity programs. In higher education, he proposes using federal power over college accreditations to counter institutions he labels as Marxist. He also proposes taxes, fines and lawsuits on large endowments at universities not aligned with his policies, and using these funds to create a tuition-free American Academy. This academy would offer college credentials to all Americans without tuition charges. He also proposes pulling federal funding for any school or program pushing critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. Immigration. Trump's 2016 slogan, "Build the Wall," has evolved into plans for a large-scale deportation program, potentially involving the National Guard and bolstering domestic law enforcement. Despite these declarations, Trump has provided few specifics on how this program would target only individuals in the U.S. illegally. His proposals include ideological screening for new entrants, repealing birthright citizenship, likely requiring a constitutional amendment, and reinstating policies like Remain in Mexico and travel bans affecting certain majority Muslim countries. Collectively, his approach could not only curb illegal immigration but also restrict immigration overall. National defense and foreign policy. Trump's foreign policy leans isolationist, promising a stronger military and protectionist economic measures. He has stated he could end conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, although he has not said how he would do it. Critical of NATO and U.S. military leadership, Trump expresses admiration for certain authoritarian leaders like Hungary's Viktor Orban and Russia's Vladimir Putin. He advocates for a missile defense system reminiscent of Cold War strategies. Regulation and presidential power. Trump aims to reduce federal regulations, with cuts intended to boost fossil fuel production and streamline housing construction. He supports classifying many federal jobs outside civil service protections, which would facilitate the dismissal of federal employees. Trump also asserts that the president has exclusive discretion over federal spending, even if allocated by Congress, which could spark legal challenges. He also believes the Federal Reserve, an independent entity that sets interest rates, should be subject to more presidential power. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Trump pledges to protect Social Security and Medicare, though his proposals to exempt certain incomes from taxation could affect the funding for these programs. Trump's first term largely allowed states flexibility on Medicaid requirements. Questions remain about how Trump's proposal to exempt tip and overtime wages from taxation could impact Social Security and Medicare. If the exemption applies solely to income taxes, it wouldn't affect these programs. However, if it includes payroll taxes, this would reduce funding for Social Security and Medicare. Tariffs and trade. Trump's trade policy emphasizes tariffs on foreign goods, proposing rates of 10% to 20% or even higher. He will reinstitute an executive order requiring that the Food and Drug Administration buy essential medications only from U.S. companies. He also vows to restrict certain imports and prevent Chinese buyers from purchasing U.S. infrastructure. Taxes. Trump's tax policy favors corporations and wealthier Americans, focusing on extending his 2017 tax overhaul and reducing the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15%. Additionally, he pledges to reverse tax hikes on the wealthiest and eliminate taxes tied to climate-focused measures. He has introduced middle-class-friendly proposals, such as exempting tips, Social Security wages, and overtime pay from income tax. However, his tip tax exemption could inadvertently benefit high earners, allowing them to classify income as tips. Workers' rights. Trump positions his administration as worker-focused but remains critical of unions, especially in light of Biden's electric vehicle policies. He discourages union dues, suggesting union leadership and corporate management are both complicit in the transition to EVs. Summary. A critical examination of Trump's policies reveals several implementation challenges that would likely emerge. Many of his proposals, particularly those involving executive power expansion and educational reform, would face significant legal challenges. Others, such as his energy policies, appear to disregard current market realities and environmental concerns. His platform is also notable for what it lacks: detailed implementation plans for major policy shifts, specific funding mechanisms for new initiatives, and clear strategies for achieving policy goals. These omissions raise questions about the practicality and feasibility of many proposed changes. Taken as a whole, Trump's platform represents a unique blend of traditional conservative positions and unprecedented approaches to federal power. While promising to reduce government influence in some areas, it actually proposes to dramatically reshape and often expand federal authority under direct presidential control. This contradiction between stated principles and practical proposals creates a complex policy landscape that would likely face significant challenges to implement. That brings me to the end of this look into the policy proposals of the incoming president. Only time will tell if these policies do materialize. All we can do is wait and see. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And join me for more quality content. Until next time, walk good, my friend.